You know, and that way we just take a picture.
I'm not gonna hear it.
I like it.
I just obviously.
Patrick, fearless leader, we're at quorum, so we can begin whenever you would like.
Let's do it. Are we? Oh, yeah, we got people on that. Sounds good. Yeah, let's take it away. Let's see, I guess we'll start off with roll call. Start right here.
Rick Emmelhainz, member, here.
Killian Williams, alternate member here. Pat Fitzgerald, member here.
Elisabeth Shaw, member here.
Melanie Love, liaison, present. Hillary Kerwin, member, here.
Tracy Sabina, member here.
And then online, Mayor.
Well, Daniel Sierra, liaison.
Logan Dunning, member, driving to you guys, present.
Dana's here.
And Dana.
Hi.
Hi, Dana.
Hi, Dana.
Hi.
So glad you're here. I meant to reach out to you and it got away from me, so sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
Fantastic. All right. That is everyone. That is our guests. So I guess we'll go ahead with the approval of last meeting's minutes. I will entertain a motion. Well, I guess, first of all, any questions, comments, edits on last meeting's minutes? If not, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion. Anyone seconded?
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against, say nay. All right. We have approval of last meeting's minutes. So yep, go ahead and get into the meat of it here. Or no, start off with public forum, that's right. Any members of the public? You have a designated time slot here if you want to talk about anything. All right, if not, we'll go ahead and proceed on with our.
Dana.
Oh, Dana.
Oops. Sorry, I was trying to raise my hand. Thanks. So I guess this is when I should talk about the idea, or can I talk later about the idea that Michael proposed? Michael, should I wait? I just don't know since I'm not on the commission.
Are you, Dana, are you referring to what you and I and Michael talked about?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to have a section in the meeting and you were invited to be a part of that discussion.
Okay, great.
So, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll save it.
Yeah, I think that'll be the bulk of our meeting tonight, so we'll have a lot of discussion around that. But yeah, if there's nothing else, go ahead and proceed on. This is standing community projects. Any updates from anyone?
Yes.
Take it away.
So I have the Baird Park project as part of the grant project from last year that will be culminating on Memorial Day weekend. Well, I shouldn't say culminating. I mean, we're going to do a planting party, but I have a band lined up. Confirmed that this past week. So it's going to be Sunday and Monday, but Sunday I'm kind of looking at a big day just to give people a day for that to work. So that's Sunday the 20-something, Memorial Day weekend. But I'll give you more information. Would love to have members involved.
Is there a time? Do you have a time, Tracy?
You just show up. No, I'm just kidding.
Tracy, do you want to send me the information? I can
Yeah,
disperse it.
I'll create a flyer and then I'll just send it to you.
A 25th would be the Sunday.
Yes. That's it.
And what was the project in the park?
So the Baird Park project is very much in line with what we're talking about tonight. It's a native plant demonstration garden that I received a grant for last year. And so I did it in a phased-in approach. So right now the park in Baird Park is just covered with mulch just to basically suffocate the grass that's there. and then we'll plant in the spring.
Great.
Yeah.
Tracy,
Fun.
you should also tell them about the green library you put up.
Sure. So this past month, I also did an event at Inglewood Rec Center and implemented the second little green library. Well, it's still free, little free green library. And we did a tabling event with Compost Colorado, and the library is basically kind of focusing on sustainable resources, and I put some seeds in there too. And it's right there as you go in the Inglewood Rec Center. It's super cute. Mel came out with her dog.
With my dog.
Yes, super cute. Yeah, it was a great event.
We also-
A lot of good feedback.
We also heard from our recreation manager over there that people have been like super engaged with it and looking in it. And they've gotten positive comment cards about it. And she said it's just been such a positive addition so far, which made me so happy.
That's
I was
so
like, I have to
nice.
tell Tracy.
Yes, thank you. Well, it's because of sustainability grant. So that was, yeah. There you go.
Any other standing community projects? If not, we can go ahead and proceed on with our standing DRCOG updates. I don't know if
I usually let Christine do these because we're on kind of the same committees, but since she's not here, for the building policy committee, the overall one, they're starting to craft like how much funding each individual community is going to get to help with staff capacity to implement a lot of the great things that this 200 million EPA funding wants to do. So they're sifting through that. We should get a better understanding maybe even in May, because the applications will come out in June. But each city, it looks like it's gonna have anywhere from like 300,000 to upwards of like 900,000 plus, depending on a lot of factors that they decide. We don't get to decide, the planning committee gets to decide, but it'll be really great to help us kind of implement things. So more information to come, but it's brewing and they're doing really great work over there.
all right.
And would this commission help with Inglewood's application, or just kind of be stakeholders with it? Or, yeah.
Probably not. That's almost a little too nitty gritty, and usually the applications go pretty fast.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate on my end. Yeah. But if there's funding available, we'll definitely be going for it. And the cool thing too is you're allowed to partner with other communities and like pool those fundings to make it bigger if it makes sense. And I'm sure you all know that like Inglewood, Littleton, and Sheridan work on stuff a lot. So it'll be cool to see if there's economies of scale that we can reach if we do that, if it makes sense.
Yeah, possible outreach opportunity for the commission then, probably, not like the actual application,
Yeah.
like, for engagement, maybe
Yeah.
that could be the part we play in it.
And they're also gonna give us more guidelines, hopefully in May, no later than June, about what we can apply for staff capacity with that. Because right now it's all up in the air. Not up in the air, but being refined.
Fantastic, that's good news. Yep, that's all we got for DRCOG. We can move on to our meat of our meeting here. And I'll just go ahead and pass off to Rick to take it away.
Okay, thank you. For those of you who maybe were not here last week at the end of the meeting to hear what I had proposed, I had this idea and I've bounced it around among a few people, and it seems like something that is gaining some traction just in terms of enthusiasm and interest, and I think this committee is a prime place to start. This came out of something which I saw as a need to assist with another group within the city, the Code Enforcement Division. As we go into the summer, many times the the code enforcement division is challenged as to whether what's going on in someone's front yard is actual grass, weeds, or purposeful. And the idea was that if we could come up with some way to recognize people who have done native plants, native grasses, Colorado scaping, possibly pollinator gardens, things in their front yard particularly which are intentional, and we could recognize those people, it would be one less hassle they would get from the code enforcement regarding weeds in their yard. We know that it takes a couple of years to establish a native grass area, and it can look pretty trashy for the first couple of years until it comes on board. So that kind of launched in, got a lot of support from you guys toward the end of the meeting last time, and I just wanted to take a next step with you guys. Actually three things out of the next half an hour. I'm going to keep an eye on the clock because I want to try to make good use of our time. First is, I would love for you to brainstorm ideas. What kinds of things, how would we structure it? How would we make this thing work for the city? What makes it attractive for people to want to do? And then after we've done that, I'd like to take a few minutes and talk about what we see as major impediments that could get in the way of us actually being successful with this. What do we want to anticipate that we could maybe talk to people or engage with different stakeholders in the city so that we're not tripping over things? And then the third part of it is I would love to form a subcommittee from this group that would kind of not necessarily run it, but at least be the embryonic part that could actually put the pieces together and actually come up with a proposal that we could then roll out or something along that line. So that's kind of the three pieces, and I thought if we can take maybe 10 or 15 minutes for the brainstorming part, and then the last part we can kind of decide if people want to jump on board for something like that. I'm kind of stalling a little bit. Logan was going to be my whiteboard writer. He's in transit, so
I'm walking in. I just parked.
I can do it if you want.
You here?
I'm here. I'll be there in a second.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Be happy to write.
So let's just open it up. What would you envision something like this looking like? What kind of, I'm thinking certification type of program. So what does it look like to you? You can jump in.
Well, I'm just thinking about what, like, a lot of different organizations that are trying to encourage this kind of landscaping, what they already do. And so it might be good to just even look at and research what their criteria is. Like, I was just up at the landscaping with native plants conference. I just want to make sure I got that right. Up in Fort Collins, Dana was there. And there's just a lot of organizations that you can get like a sign or some kind of, for your yard that says like pollinator friendly or whatever. And so they have different criteria. And I think, I love this idea, by the way, and I wasn't here at the end of the meeting last time. Because I do think what this takes is education. And I think the more signage that we can have is going to promote that and allow people to understand. I think that's why I tend to start putting signs in my yard, because mine does look kind of trashy right now, but it's a work in progress, and there's always native plant landscapes are just an evolution, and it will be a continual evolution instead of just a stagnant grassland.
Okay, so I heard education.
Education is key.
Is a big piece.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Not to take you on a tangent, sorry, just real quick, not to take you on a tangent, but what you said about the signs, is that they're doing it in this format of like, hey, we are rewarding you with this, or it's like optional, yo, I'm gonna need one of those signs.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing signage.
So, I mean, some of them are like, hey, become a member and you can get a sign. But they do have a list of, like, it says, I agree to planting, pollinator-friendly plants. I agree to, and so But they do have criteria.
So there is an actual list of things you could bring, because what we would need to, I assume here is, or I shouldn't assume, I should just ask is, like, here's the agreement that, and it could be any number, you know, a couple of different organizations for people to choose from and meet them where they're at with, for what they want to do with their, but like, you know, we need to be able to show code enforcement and council, this is what people who have this sign have agreed to do in their yard. This is what it actually means beyond just, it's not just, I have a $50 annual contribution to this group and I do whatever I want in my yard and you leave me alone. It's no, here's the actual principles.
Here's what I've done to be certified as
So-
a native plant landscape.
So what, like with this, I would envision this as like us determining our own sign. By us, I mean, whatever the community, the board, the city, whatever that community looks like. But our own sign versus somebody else's, if that makes sense, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, it could be, you know, City of Englewood, you know, native.
I think you
plant.
should cast a big enough shadow to kill all the other plants. Just kidding.
Yes.
Yes. Huge sign, yeah. And that was kind of my question first and foremost, or the thing that we need to actually talk about. But that's the first question that came up for me, was the practicality of it, because you're trying to square it with, you know, the actual code is weeds and grasses no taller than 6 inches. Neither of those two words, like, botanically actually means anything, but native does, and that's actually way hard. Like, that native actually does mean something, but it also gets fuzzy. Like, if I have I have Columbine cultivars and Opuntia cultivars that don't occur in the wild. Are those native, or would it be better to think of it more as a Englewood green lawns or alternative lawns program, to be more inclusive, meet people where they are, and get better adoption, and make it so that we don't have to have a PhD botanist inspecting everybody's lawn plant by plant, because that's never going to happen.
I'm going to jump in here.
Can So I think the way to approach that is to think of this as a ecological landscaping certification rather than specifically native plants, and to focus on plants that are ecologically beneficial for Englewood. You know, that are adapted to Englewood's conditions and climate. And I think that that doesn't limit it to native. And how do you define native? You know, you could say regionally native, Colorado native, you could say North America native. So I think that, I think, I mean, most, you know, wild ones, view is the more native, the better, or the more, the higher percentage of native and Colorado native and regionally native plants, the better. And Doug Tallamy says the threshold for restoring an ecosystem is around 70 to 80% of the plants being native. So that's how I would reframe it, as creating ecologically restorative habitats or landscapes. And I think it's a really great opportunity to educate people about what those plants are and provide lists. And I think another really key component is landscaping best practices to support wildlife. So it's not just what you're planting, but how you, you know, how you do yard cleanup, how you plant the plant, not tilling, using appropriate mulch and no weed barrier, things like that. So yeah, I think it could be a way to just disseminate information about best practices.
Okay, anybody?
Yeah,
in there?
I have
Go
a
ahead.
follow-up. Sorry, when we're talking about this, like, I keep envisioning somebody's like border against their fence, or like the little strip of sidewalk grass sometimes, that kind of thing. So just so that we're all clear, like, what is, like, are we talking about a full yard, anything viewable from the street? Does it have to be the entire yard? If I rip out one side of my house, I rip out all the grass and put in native plants, does this count?
Well, code enforces like plants adjacent to alleyways too, as well.
Yeah, we're
I
gonna have
don't-
a discussion about alleyways in the code enforcement meeting, and we've got it to come up, so. Because I think alleyways are different, and I think, in my mind, I think we focus on the things which are the visible things which code would be most likely to address. But that's a discussion, thanks for bringing it up, because it will happen.
So, but like if we're talking not alleyways, but just like, I would assume just the visible part of the yard would be the first one, because I don't care what somebody's doing in their backyard.
Right.
Code enforcement doesn't either. And then, so is it the entirety of the front yard? So if they take out, like I said, if you have a driveway and you do half and you rip it out and put in native plants, but the other half is still grass, we don't have the money, we do whatever.
Right.
Does this
Did you put
certify?
that down as a question? Can you do that?
Please
How
state the
much,
question.
how much of the yard are we talking about? I think that's something that we can go
Yeah,
into
we
a
can
little
just
bit.
put in like a water plant. But
We
it's
want
gotta
to,
make sense too for them, for the owners, the homeowners.
Like percentage of total yard to be
Yeah,
native?
One.
percentage of yard that, and again, if it's a qualification thing, how much does it need, you need to qualify, for this? If you're gonna put in a 2x4 box, does that mean you get plant certified or not?
I think we can all probably agree that it's gotta be, well, maybe I'm wrong. Can we agree that it has to be, oh my God, what is the word when it just lays flat on the ground? It can't be in a box. It can't be in a raised garden bed. It can't be in a barrel or a pot or something like that. What's the word that it has to be like?
I
Ground,
favor
even
more
on the
making it,
ground.
I don't
Directly on the
know,
ground.
I favor making it as inclusive as possible. If someone, like, if the way that they're getting some pollinator-friendly plants in their yard is by making a raised bed where they have something weird going on, you could say, maybe this whole yard is blah, blah certified, or this garden, and if that garden is a 4x8 raised bed in front of your duplex, I have no problem with that. I also don't think code enforcement would be likely to care about that either, so maybe it's a moot point, but I don't know, I would want to make it as inclusive as possible personally.
I think
I-
Dave,
Good.
just jump.
I agree. I think we want to make it as accessible as possible, and every little piece, if somebody plants, a 2x4 planter box, that's helpful. So I think every piece is useful, and also every sign is educational, and the signs could have a QR code that links to all the best practices and best plants info. So I feel like the more the better.
I'm gonna back this out just a little bit. I'm gonna use this term, and don't go dad on me. We're getting in the weeds a little bit.
Yep.
Okay, I want to try to stay higher level in terms of, let's talk about the general things that we think we can be doing with it. Those discussions about how much that should be into maybe more of a subcommittee kind of level, okay?
Good call.
Great.
So, okay, are you making a list of like in the sub?
I'm just writing what I'm hearing.
I think in the questions section, that could be where the subcommittee comes back to.
Okay.
So one thing, oh, go ahead.
They start our sentences the same way. That's awesome. I was gonna say, just in the way people are describing this, I've heard different things rise to the top for a priority or why we're doing this. And I do think that's something that needs to be defined. Is it to do water-wise landscaping? Is it more pollinator habitat, more bird-friendly habitat, better soil health? Different things have come up as folks have been describing, what gets them excited about it. So I do think that needs to be part of either this discussion or the subcommittee discussion, is defining the why.
Mhm.
Okay, that's excellent.
Yeah, I like all of those as, related, but possibly one is, somebody cares more strongly about one or the other, and then
Yeah, I
we
don't
can
think
come
they
up
have to
with,
be exclusive.
well, and we could maybe provide resources to say, oh, you want to make the most water-wise garden possible, here's where you look for that, here's how pollinator-friendly, bird-friendly, like, you can just, maybe the committee could put together, like, kind of gather resources for if you want to have a bird-friendly garden in Englewood, or if you want to have a vegetable garden in your front yard in Englewood, like, here's as long as you have that intention and you're telling code enforcement that this is what I'm doing with this place, I'm not just letting my bare soil do whatever it wants. You know, that.
Mike?
Yes. If I can go up to the 30,000 foot level,
Yeah.
then I like it up there. I think from a code enforcement point of view and from the point of view of an outsider, somebody who comes to Englewood for the first time and they say, this is the coolest town. They've got to look nice. Back to your point, which is it can't be a dog patch in your front yard. So I think in simple terms, it's got to look nice. And code enforcement has to say, oh, that's one of those nice looking natural yards or whatever we call it. And it's real easy to identify the difference between that and the person who's just lazy and doesn't want to mow their yard. and they, you know, so.
Well, put that under barriers. Put that under, you know, what is the thing that is going to be difficult? Or I keep thinking, what is somebody going to ask questions about? Well, how does this work? Or, you know, how do we define that?
Right. What's the aesthetic? I mean, how do we say, oh, you know, like somebody like Dana says, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I just know. I mean, that's really cool. They're doing it the right way. Or she looks at the yard and goes, that is an untended plot of dirt. And I think people have to get that real simply and understand that. Code enforcement, or again, the visitor coming to Englewood goes, man, they do some really cool things in their front yards out there. They look good.
What's the barrier here? Aesthetic?
I think aesthetics, yeah. I think that is a barrier that people will look at and go, you know, gosh, that looks awful. It's that idea that it takes 2 years before you actually get something that looks kind of nice out there.
That's why the sign is.
So
I have another question though, because what, I feel like this came up originally with code enforcement, that it was like, hey, we've got a problem. Code enforcement is trying to ticket people who are doing this thing. And this is like, code enforcement is essentially like our goal, right? We want to inform them above all else. So let's put this sign in the yard. And then how do we get that, whatever. But ultimately, I like the sign is an encouragement of your neighbors, but ultimately our audience at the high level is code enforcement, right? Like up top.
I think we want it to convert people, you know, and it has to look a certain way. You know, there's some degree of maintenance that's required. And I think it's easy to define that, what's expected.
Yeah, the first thing I thought of when I heard, and yes, I like aesthetics as an important consideration, but there are also lots of noxious weeds that look really pretty, and that's why people buy them and put them in their yard. And so I do think that the ecological component, or that has to also be a part of it. Like it has to show the balance that you can have both, that you don't just have to have like either a barren grassland or a Home Depot annuals lawn. Like you can have
And I think you're right. I think that goes back to the education piece. I think that a lot of this has an upfront piece. And I think that is definitely something that the subcommittee can get into. What does education look like? We don't want to make it so onerous that it's too hard for people to do, but we also don't want to make it, hey, you know what, pay us $20 for a sign and you got it. Right. So there's a middle ground there.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw up one more idea that this came out of you and Dana and I, is that having resources available for people who are interested in the program to seek information on what is a good plant, what isn't a good plant, what works in this area, that kind of thing.
I rephrased this from simply aesthetics to, I liked your term balancing aesthetics versus ecological benefit. Would that be more accurate of the immediate conversation?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think if I was gonna say in a perfect world, the resources would be like, I've got an east facing lawn, whatever, with this in it, already this tree, what can I put there? Because I think if you make it that simple, That's what I envisioned, but you're right. Like resources and like education is the hardest piece, I think, is the biggest hurdle is how do we educate and who's gonna do it and how do we educate code enforcement?
Jump in. There's also, this came up with code enforcement, and it's a darn good question. The fellow said, well, I'm already into this and I'm already doing this in my front yard and it looks pretty good. And what if I don't want your sign? I said, I don't know. That's a pretty good question.
That came up.
Now, if it's nice looking, no one's probably gonna argue. If you take care of your pollinator garden in your front yard, you don't have a sign, okay. But it's an interesting question of, oh, now you're gonna make me spend $20 for doing what I already did. The other point I wanna make, or this is an opinion, I don't want to get into the weeds, but I think it needs to be fairly easy to do, but there's some minimal standards. I think basic education is step one. There's a seminar, I went to the seminar, I get it. On the other hand, if somebody can identify, for me, if somebody can identify those plants that they planted, I'm impressed. They didn't just go to Home Depot and put some plants in their front yard. And so something as basic of saying, this is my game plan, or this is my sketch, and these are the 6 plants that I'm going to nurture.
No, like another, no, I like it. I'd like
No,
another
what I'm
step in
saying
the process that's
there's
like,
a certain
here's my
amount of
plan.
effort, discipline for me. I don't know the names of the plants, so I'd have to talk to Dana or go to a website and say, I'm gonna get 2 of these, 1 of these. Well, that's a commitment to say, oh, or if I run to Home Depot and I just put some plants in my front yard and call it Coloradoscaping. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't take much to separate those who are sincerely trying to do it from those who aren't. And the easier we make that, the better.
So,
Mike, I got a little lost in the weeds. You're saying that like for the people that really want to do it and we want to provide, you want them to provide a plan so that we can, okay, we know that this all fits within the plan. You do the plan, we'll give you your placard. You're saying that's part of the process.
Yeah.
And then
I think so.
to the person who reviews that plan.
I guess.
Okay, is that?
Dana?
So one of the obstacles, the biggest obstacle is native plant availability. You won't find them at Home Depot. And, you know, there are nurseries that have them, but it's one of these like chicken and egg things. We have to increase the demand to get nurseries to have them. So I see that as a hurdle that maybe we address with some plant sales that give, you know, make it available, easy and available, make the plants easy and available. My other point is I think this is great and it will help code enforcement, but I don't think this is necessary for code enforcement to change the weed ordinance. I think that should be separate because regardless of this, code enforcement needs to be able to identify the plants on the Colorado noxious weed list. And those are the ones they should be giving code violations for. And I feel like this program could take a while to get going. And I just want to stress, I still think the wording needs to be changed and code enforcement needs their little sheets with the top 12 noxious weeds to look out for. Because I don't think people should be required to have a sign if they have native or ecologically restorative landscapes, if they don't want one. And people will have taller grasses than what the current weed ordinance says.
Okay, thank you. Yes, there is a code enforcement aspect to this. It's still in discussion, by the way, Dana. It actually hasn't come up as part of our meetings yet regarding how code enforcement interprets this. Okay, I'm going to throw up. We kind of need to jump into some barriers in addition because we're running out of time. We got about 10 more minutes. I'm going to put funding under barriers, signage, okay, resources, just the simple kinds of things. That's under barriers.
What did you want it under? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
And are you thinking barriers for the individual homeowner or resident, or barriers for the city, or both?
I think barriers, in my mind, to getting the program off the ground.
I was about to suggest citywide implementation as a barrier, because to me, it's not realistic. Maybe more as just kind of being realistic about the scope of it as a barrier in terms of like, do we want this to be just a kind of educational resource and a demonstration for people who want to opt into it that also has the added benefit of getting code enforcement off your back, more so than are we trying to actually change something citywide?
Go ahead, Tracy.
Just in thinking about this and what the city already offers, which is the lawn replacement program, it basically couples with that.
Garden in the box.
Garden, yeah.
Right.
You could couple it all together.
Yeah.
That's
So
another
if we wanted to kind of start there, it's already implemented.
Could that be a question of partnerships with existing programs?
Good idea. Yeah.
Good idea, Tracy.
Tracy, it's excellent, in partly because it ties back to the funding issue. I think that funding's coming out of the water department for this. Is that correct? Okay.
Because it's tied to Resource Central.
Right. So we could leverage that a little bit to say, hey, you're already doing this and this. Here's what we're talking about doing. Anyway, I'm getting into the weeds because that's subcommittee stuff.
Got a hand up?
I don't know who's first.
Oh my
Mayor.
God, let the mayor go.
Let the mayor go.
Jeez.
Thank you. Hey, so Rick, you may know this a little bit better, but how many calls to service is code enforcement taking in a given year regarding weeds, but are actually native? Do we happen to know that?
I don't think I have that specific number, but I can certainly ask AJ if we can get that. Yeah.
So I think I'm kind of tying it to the funding. So if we're able to show that it's going to reduce the cost of service from the code enforcement department in order for us to implement this project, that may provide the city a little bit more incentive to move forward with it and implementing it. So I think if we could show that cost savings, or at least just show the ROI on it, I think that potentially we can move quicker on this, or at least make it a little bit more feasible. Because I do agree, I think that that's going to be a barrier.
I can add to that I was told by Dave in code enforcement that they didn't give out a single ticket for weeds last year. So I don't know how, just from that alone, I'm not sure how big of an issue it is. But
I think that there's two levels to that. One is that the actual ticketing process usually implies that they haven't taken the hint for the 2 weeks that they get to actually manage it.
Yeah,
and so a lot of people are actually coming into compliance prior to the ticketing on that. So.
And they really should be ticketing for the noxious weeds. I think that's actually a requirement by law that cities manage these. And they're it's pretty rampant.
I have one, I don't know if it's a question or a barrier, but the idea behind who's doing this certification, who's taking these applications, who's looking at the gardens.
Good question. Good question.
Yeah.
Are you pointing at me?
No, I'm pointing to the question side of the thing.
It's a question or a barrier, but.
That's a great question, Patrick, because that was a big question for me. What a wonderful segue into talking about sort of the embryonic sort of planning committee grouping, because when you look at this forward, it's like, well, you know what? It's kind of like when you suggest something and they say, well, why don't you do it? Well, if we suggest it, if we put the work into making it, how is this becoming something which is not just a temporary thing? Everybody in this group won't be here in a few years. So does this have to have some kind of permanence that's built into the city to keep it ongoing? If we can't develop that, maybe we shouldn't do it. It's that kind of thing. I agree with
What the for something, it's like ringing a bell, but there is something that started off with like, hey, this is just kind of a lark, and it went so well that it has remained. And I can't think of what it is right now, but it was something that was like a one-off or a lark. No, I'll think about it. But to that end, once it starts picking up, it takes fire, kind of takes a life of its own.
Hey, hands.
Well, you want it to take a life of its own, but you also want to be,
I think it's.
there's
one.
a quality control issue to this thing. You know, if we pass this down to another generation of people in sustainability who don't give a rat's butt about it.
Yeah.
You know,
I still trust you. I still trust you.
service that we need to do, and somebody looks at an old sign in a yard and says, oh, I wonder where that came from. Well, a few years ago, the sustainability committee had this idea, you know.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
So we need to look at that. Okay, got 4 more minutes. Anybody jump in to want to be a part of this? I had tacit interest outside of our group. Dana, are you interested in being a part of this?
As much as my schedule allows.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Mike, how about you?
Yes.
So, well, wait, admin part of that, so you all have to vote to create your subcommittee, which it seems like that'll be an easy peasy one. And then you can have up to 4 commission members on there, absolutely no more. So
And those will be publicly announced meetings then, because
publicly
we are,
announced meetings,
tip
the
the-
public can absolutely come.
I mean, our
But-
committees,
Yeah.
subcommittees,
okay. All right, hands up again. Wow.
Who has the highest?
3.
Oh, you have to.
Well,
Are we moving to create the committee or to? Or
I
who
think,
wants to do it?
I wanted to see interest first. If no hands went up, there's no sense in
Part of it.
voting. Well, I'd like to make a motion. Can I make a motion?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we establish a subcommittee for the purpose of exploring the idea of launch certification. I'll just call it that. That's my idea.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. Okay, have it. Subcommittee created. Now,
Very good.
Rick, really quick, you called it a lawn, what committee?
On certification.
Launch
Launch
certification. So
I think
that's
we
the
might
broadest
come up
term
with
I
a
can come up with.
different-
We'll come up with something fancy.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
You get the gist.
Yes.
And then who is on the committee?
I volunteered to do it. Elizabeth, you were on it. You're going to be on
Yeah, I'm on it.
it. She's on it.
I'd love to know too.
Okay. I don't know your name. I'm sorry.
Hillary.
Hillary. Thank you.
If there's room.
Absolutely.
That'd be
Please.
great.
You're the last one.
Okay. Very good. All right. We'll get details out later about timing and what works for people.
You're on all the subcommittees. You have a
So all the
100%
meetings have to be publicly put up onto the calendar.
Nice.
I'm trying to rack it up.
Know that you can never leave.
Do we have,
That's good. That's right.
do we have to meet here?
This is Hotel California for you now, Tracy.
We
I
should
have
just
a
do like a
quick-
bi-weekly brief.
Michael's like, get out now.
kind of lingering task from that, I wanted to put, not on the committee, but happy to help with it however, or not on the subcommittee, happy to help out with it however I can. Just the action item that I came out of that with, and I can formally move this if that would be helpful too. Kind of assigned to the subcommittee would be to start getting that data, whether it was from public feedback or warnings and contact with code enforcement to find out how much of a problem this really is, if at all. Make that kind of that's if we're going to be dedicating continued full committee time to this, I'd like to hear kind of personally, are we not chasing a problem that doesn't exist, but more just is this effort going to make a meaningful impact? And is this going to actually,
I can reach out to code enforcement on that and get back to you all.
yeah, or if there's potentially a public outreach or something that could go in a newsletter where it'd say, hey, we are, maybe, yeah, I'd like to move for the first task for that subcommittee to be to get some sort of either public data gathering or kind of gather the scope of
Exactly.
what actual conflict
Get
you're
a
trying
feel for
to
what's going on.
feel.
Thank you. This was presented, I presented this to the last committee, SEAC committee meeting, which is the advisory committee for code enforcement. It was well received, warmly received. They asked if they needed to be any part of it, and I said, probably not, other than to basically, I see them as bouncing things off of them and making sure they're comfortable with it and making sure that, you know, we're working together.
Yeah,
as a
that
team.
everybody's got their.
And Mike's on that too, so we're both kind of,
Invited to our
Mr. Emeritus.
You all can also hold joint commission meetings, like later on down on the line, if you think it's beneficial. The two commissions can come together and meet.
That'd be cool. Them on that side.
No, you put them on that side, you put them on that side on a warm day. On that side on a warm day, no, I'm kidding.
They're friends.
I'm kidding. That's not, please strike that from the record.
Is it too granular for an issue for code enforcement to have their own subcommittee to talk about this particular issue?
I'll check with them and see. I sense that they didn't really want to be that involved with it.
Sounds like
kind of want to know what's going on.
You might need to build a case to make that worth their time.
Yeah, and I don't want to have to build a case.
Don't build any more cases. You're good.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know the best way to transpose this into an email. I'm happy to do it unless someone wants to snap a picture and
I can
attempt to
take a
read my
picture.
cursive handwriting.
Can you
Godspeed.
do that?
I can take a picture, and then I also took like in-depth notes breaking out like what questions people wanted in subcommittee, so I can send out both to everybody.
Now, I don't know if you got the resources
Yes.
that I sent. You feel free to include those as well. I gathered some kind of mostly CSU extension and other like resources that could be relevant to the subcommittee.
Absolutely.
It'd be great to have like if you wanted to put this into like a working Excel doc for the subcommittee to further flesh this out, just like a, what do you call it? Not like a rubric.
Shared documents between commission members, big no. Unless it's like two people working on it, or just, I mean, even the subcommittee with 4, anything over 2 people can't have a shared document.
Wild.
Do you mean for like cybersecurity or like sunlight
No,
laws
it's for
or?
yes, sunlight laws.
Okay.
Could be posted.
That is a great attorney question that I can get back to you on.
I don't want to put it work, I was just thinking.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it could be a posting that we would have at the point where we were having a meeting. Here's the information we're going to be covering, just like you would any document. Yeah. Thanks, Chloe.
Got it. Bet you didn't know I wrote in cursive, did you? Sorry about that.
Thanks. Was a great discussion. Definitely a lot more to come from that.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Sweet. Well, thank you, Rick, and we have a lot more to come from that, so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a picture of it. I squeezed this in because this was something Mike asked to be on the agenda before he left, and I think it just got dropped on my end, so I apologize. There is the Front Range Sustainability Commission meeting. They meet like, I believe, quarterly. And if anyone wants to go to these things, up to 2 people can go if they would like to. They talk about general things. I think the last time they talked about like water efficiency. But if you're interested, just let me know. You don't have to let me know now, or if you want to talk one-on-one on what that entails, I'm happy to do that too. It's from commissions all throughout the Front Range. Some are participating, some aren't. It just, yeah.
Is that like a weeknight or a weekend thing?
It is a weeknight, yeah.
In Boulder?
It varies.
It varies.
The ones Mike and I went to were all the way up in Westminster, quite a
Okay.
drive. So it is, and there's no virtual option. So it is a lift. And again, totally optional. If folks are interested, just reach out.
What would that entail? Like showing up, reporting back to this group or
Yeah, so they do it.
participating more deeply?
They do it like, I went to one at their meetings. They've only had 2, maybe 3 thus far.
Oh,
Mike and I think, went to 1. I went to 1, Mike went to 2. But then Mike has reported back on the few that he's been to. But yeah, they only have it like quarterly. And if different people want to go each time, there doesn't have to be a set one. Yeah, very informal. Wait, I think the next is still me.
Yep.
So some fun city updates for you all as we close the sustainability grant program launched on April 1st. Last year was $1,000. Our budget got slashed a little bit, so it's $500 now, but $500 can still go a long way. Talk to Tracy for inspiration if you need any. We have our Earth Day celebration coming up on the 26th. We're gonna have Sanitas Brewing there. We're gonna have live music. And I just wanted to see if the commission is interested in having a table. You all don't want to, but the invitation is there. You all want to table.
I say yes. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I feel like we could be here. Should be a table.
Yeah,
Do we,
certainly.
are we
I think it'd be
volunteering?
great, yeah.
So I'll send out an instant sign up form, and if you're interested, you can mark it, and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
I think so.
One thing I thought would be good to update you guys is we have an internal employee team called the Green Team that advances sustainability, and I thought it would just be fun to let you all know the cool stuff that they're doing. So we heard from staff through a sustainability feedback survey, which was the Green Team's idea. This is the second year we did it, that they really wanted more offerings. One really big one was an e-waste drive. So we're currently doing that for staff from April 1st to the 14th.
Sorry, what drive?
An electronic equipment recycling drive. And we're partnering with Sheridan Business at Recycle Here, and they're amazing if you're looking for an e-recycler. And this group also in the mid-year is going to be looking at sustainable city procurement policies. And getting into how what we purchase can be more green. And then really, really exciting stuff on the resiliency one. So one, we're doing a mobile home outreach on Thursday with the county from 3 to 6, which we're doing it for 2 reasons: to help folks sign up for the weatherization program, but also to get further feedback on the vulnerabilities and solutions that residents came up with in January. So to get that second gut check. We're also doing more feedback solicitation at the 26th Earth Day event. So we just want to hear from as many residents as possible, make sure we're capturing everyone's feedback. And then we are members of a nonprofit called ICLEI, and we applied to get a free intern for a project, and we were given them. So this intern is working solely on the Community Climate Resiliency Project. They start in May. We have them all the way to November. For 30 hours a week, and they're going to do a deep dive into what residents want, the feasibility, financial part of it. They're going to dive really, really deep into it. So that is such a win. I'm really excited to see what they come up with, obviously with collaboration from the Sustainability Division. And then we're presenting to leadership in May about the high level of what we found from all the resident feedback to get further kind of clarification on the path to go.
Who's your intern?
Our intern's name is Colton. I can't remember his last name. He's a grad student at DU. Yeah.
So do you pay them, or are you doing 30 hours for free?
We don't pay him. We get him for free. The nonprofit he's working through is paying him. He's a paid intern. Yeah, you can't have a not-paid intern at 2025, but the city of Englewood is not paying anything.
Right.
I mean, that's great. I was just thinking, I was like, oh my God, someone's interning for 30 hours a week and not getting paid.
As someone who used to be a non-paid intern, I would never do that to someone. That was terrible. And then my last unfortunate one is Evan, our urban forester. This is actually his last month with the city. Him and his partner are moving to Sweden, which is where she's from. Which means that the tree ordinance is just in a little bit of limbo until we get someone else on. We have to get them up to speed. I just don't want the commission thinking that this is like forgotten about. It is in the Parks Department right now, but they're just, they're going through a little transition.
Who hires into that position? Is that the city manager that hires into that?
Oh, the Parks.
This position, their forester position, is that the city manager or does it come out of the department?
So they work in the Parks, Rec, and Library and Golf Department. Okay. Yeah, so Christina Underhill, Adrian Torres are gonna be finding that replacement.
They haven't found him yet, it sounds like.
I don't believe so. Yeah. But when they have started and been here for a little bit and have their grounding, I think if you all are interested, it would be great to have them.
Great.
100%.
I think the tree ordinance was before I joined this. Can you give us the cliff notes of what it is?
Yeah, does someone from the division want to? Okay, I can give the cliff notes. So the tree ordinance is something that was first started, I want to say over a year ago.
Yeah,
By 2 years.
it was right when I
2 years.
joined.
It was, I can't even remember how it was implemented. I feel like it was so long
It's
ago.
the building one where if you're going to build, like you have to, oh my God, I probably have this wrong. Like if you're gonna build, you can't tear down certain trees unless you're
But
gonna
how
plant
it-
another one.
Was this,
It was directed by city council.
Mr. Mayor, was this a council request? Do you remember
Yes, but I
Was
can't
it tree
remember how it
ordinance?
originally got brought up.
either?
Actually, I don't think it came from city council. To be
Oh.
honest with you, I think it came from this group.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah.
Did we do this?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm having amnesia.
I think it was, well, I feel like it was already in first draft form when I came in the summer of 2023. And I think it was, what was her name?
Oh, I got you. Look at this. I got you.
What?
You got notes?
You have it.
Yeah, Lloyd.
The conversation was brought up in some capacity over a year ago. It was
Okay.
brought to city council that it was a desire to have a tree protection ordinance because we do not have one. And so it was presented to city council and then city council said, okay, yes, we want sustainability commission to kind of flesh out like, what does this look like? How is it implemented? So the sustainability commission put a lot of work into like what they want to see for a tree ordinance. They worked really closely with our urban forester who is now leaving, who has a lot of experience in that. And I will send over also a document, the more final document of what
okay,
we
yeah,
have
that'd be
over
great.
to you. And so it went back and forth between the Parks Commission, our commission, and it's so close to the finish line and now our urban forester is leaving. So it's close depending on how you define close, but yeah.
It needs one too.
Yes, oh yes, let me write that down. Yeah, any other questions or anything on city updates?
Only that it might tie into May meeting ideas, which is if the second Tuesday is gonna happen to give us a chance to review or even discuss any of the kind of draft versions or you guys' progress with the intern on the climate resiliency update, or if we could help with the presentation on that in any way, if that would be appropriate to do
leadership?
a meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, so the presentation sorry, I should have been more clear. To leadership is internal leadership, so directors of like, here's what residents have said, both at workshops and at the events we did, and then kind of have a gut check of like, here's what we're already doing, here's a direction. And then it probably won't go to city council until late summer. Yeah, late summer, maybe even early fall, we have to see. But I will say when it goes to council, that would be a great time to have like commission support, especially with you guys reviewing it throughout the time. So
Maybe not relevant by May yet for the next meeting.
I think it would be a little too soon. The intern's starting like in the beginning of May, and I'm sure it'll be like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
I have one thing. I don't know if it's a city update or a meeting idea or just a tidbit. And I'm sorry if I'm stealing this directly from your newsletter, Mel. I forgot where I saw this. I think it was on Englewood's Instagram. But I saw that the library does a seed library.
I
And,
just saw
They
downstairs
just-
tonight.
oh, really?
Nice.
I don't know if that was, I think I just saw it on Instagram, but it seemed like a really cool idea. And they said you can drop off your extra seeds and trade them back, but that could be another propagator for native plants or
yours?
education.
That was another, oh no, that was the neighborhood grant.
Neighborhood improvement grant?
Yeah, because I
That was-
remember when I was at the city council meeting and they were
I know
recognizing
the
us
library
someone.
has done a seed swap before.
And it looks like it's in the library.
Yeah, it's in the
So-
library, not the one for, you're talking about Cushing was the neighborhood improvement, no. But yeah, the
There was
library
some-
they've got a seed, what you're
That's
saying.
cool.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think the woman that received the neighborhood improvement grant last year, she did it for seed libraries.
okay,
And so there might be multiple.
got it. And maybe the library is just one of them?
Yeah.
Okay, got
Can we
it.
put together a network? Or like kind of
See,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
research.
don't know, mine's
Yeah,
like an
just
underground.
gather some info on that for, make it publicly available.
So that might be something for our sustainability communication.
Yeah, I like that idea.
But, yeah, anyway, I saw that, so I don't know what that falls under.
Dana, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Could we discuss, could it be discussed maintenance at Depot Park at the next meeting? Because it really needs maintenance.
Is that a community garden?
Yeah, it's one that can,
Are you speaking about the community gardens or there, or like the?
I'm not, yeah, it's the
Pollinate.
landscaped part of Depot Park, not the vegetable garden part.
Commission?
It's your call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all
Sure.
ears. I want to hear the latest at Depot. That'd be great. Or how I can get
and
involved.
adding volunteer, yeah.
You know, Dana, it might not be a bad idea for you to educate the people who've come on about the history of that and how it started. I mean, I would be,
Gladly.
I figured you would feel okay about
I
that.
have a whole presentation of them, but yeah, I can do a shorter version.
Racing, put on the calendar.
A Depot Park refresher. Is that, okay.
One thing for May is, member Christine Brinker emailed me and was requesting that Chef Andrew, who launched the induction stove program through the sustainability grant, come and talk about induction stove cooking. He said he would be happy to, and he'll do a live demo and make you all crepes, I think.
Dana, you're getting pushed to June. I'm sorry.
Dana,
It
do
could be fun.
That
is gonna set
Dana,
some
do you have a
expectation.
food alternative? Do you have a food alternative? We're looking for a reason.
There's great elderberries at Depot.
That could go in the crepes.
So he has confirmed that he can make it to May, but if you want to bump him, I can reach out to see his other availability. It's truly up to you.
What do you think of half an hour?
Whatever you all want to give him.
How quickly can you make crepes?
I was gonna say, that might be.
I've seen him twice make them very fast.
Maybe see what his availability is, because it might dictate everything. Does that make sense?
Did you say he was available for May?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you had to check.
No, he said he's available for May.
I would.
Well, let's keep him on, and then Dana, maybe you could do a pared down version of your presentation, keep it short and sweet. You can fit it all in there. Sounds good.
We can listen to that while we're eating crepes.
Dan, I'm supportive of you because I know that this is a timely issue too for you, because we're coming into a season where you need help.
Yes.
I don't need help, but I think Parks does. I think the park needs, Depot needs help.
Touche.
Also, I won't be your staff person for next meeting. Tim Dodd will. I'm going to be at a climate change conference.
Fine.
So, yeah, very depressing, but needed.
Where's that at?
Las Vegas, of all places.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Epicenter.
Don't even get me started.
Wow.
I know.
Oh, sorry, one more from Matt. This was just brought up earlier. I don't know if this is a presentation or just a tidbit, but an information on noxious weeds, time consumption by code enforcement. Or if we just want to push that off on the subcommittee, we can also do that. But I think that would be an interesting.
For the May meeting?
For what?
You just want the information?
Yeah, it's just,
May meeting.
yeah, for May, yeah.
Can I throw a topic out there, because I do think that even though it's like adjacent or tangential, it would be worth maybe our time to discuss, it doesn't have to be May, could be June, worth our time to discuss like how we could see education spreading about native plants, not just as far as like Rick's initiative, but just in general. How to, like, what are the avenues, what can we do, like how can we educate? I love gardening, and I can tell you I'm an idiot. I wouldn't be able to identify what's native and what's not. Like, oh, it's good for 5B, done. So,
You're not alone.
There's, on Wild Ones Front Range's website, there's a toolkit with everything you could need to know.
what's what website?
Wild Ones Front Range chapter. I think I think the website is Front Range Wild Ones
Just look that up.
.org.
Can you send that link around, Mel? Will you please send that link around?
Yes.
There's also the CSU Master Gardener Help Desk.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That I was, they also have a free course on native plants. I just need something that like 15 minutes before I leave for Home Depot.
Or don't leave for Home Depot.
Just kidding. I would never go there. I worked at a nursery in high school. That's where I go.
I just throw out, since it's Earth Month, Compost Colorado has a sign up and get 25% off your membership for the first 6 months. So if you are not composting, you can talk to me if you want. And I can hook you up.
Plug.
It's a great time to start composting. I just spent the day at Denver Art Museum talking to people about composting.
June is DRCOG Bike to Work Day, so if we're gonna do anything related to that at all, talk about that in May might be worth 5 minutes.
Mel, do you guys coordinate? I've done that bike to work before, and I've definitely, there's like hydration stations along where you
We
go.
have one.
Do we? Okay. Is that your committee, like in conjunction with the city, or the city is in charge?
That's our wellness committee through the city. And they've done it for years and years, pre my time. And they have like a bike fix-it station, they have a whole shebang.
Are they gonna have the Ingle Ride shirts?
We don't have shirts.
Are we gonna get some?
We have, so that's for the city employees. We do have like bike lights.
I know, but I'm just saying that the Ingle Ride, I get it, it's a cool
I've been
thing.
thinking
It's a
we were
cool,
talking- We were talking about making it like a community-wide.
yes, that's what I
campaign.
was saying.
It's on my ever-growing list. We're working on it.
Okay, I can send it out. For my support.
Semi-relevant to June, our communications subcommittee last time talked about the zero fare for better air, and then I was promptly told that it was actually discontinued when I was pitching the whole idea. It was great. But I did see after that conversation that the agency actually extended their 1 year zero fare for youth program last year through RTD. And so I don't know if that's something we could potentially promote in addition to
We have
Dr.
that in the
Thomas.
magazine right now.
check the box.
I just got the draft version today and it's in there.
Could you want me to save my breath?
And ozone pollution awareness is in there and the grants
Beautiful.
Mhm.
Good work.
and summer watering.
Oh, nice.
Mhm. The comms team is on it.
Yay.
All right, if there's nothing else, go ahead and adjourn this month's meeting.
Good team.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Mayor. What did Mike give me? Battery powered something? Powered portable camping shower and dry bag. Wow. I have no idea what it is. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.